I'll be just starting in a minute. Am I audible? Hello everyone. Uh, this is Nithin Sridhar here, and to just give a brief introduction, I am author of 6 books and a speaker, and I work as a chief curator of Advaita Academy. It is our academy is focused on sharing the knowledge of Advaita Vedanta with the world. And among the 6 books, one of the books is Menstruation Across Cultures, this one. And this is a book that was published in December 2018, a result of 3 years of research. And I'll be speaking on this research on what I did on menstruation. And the book focuses on cultures from across the world. But today's talk, I'll be focusing only on Hindu practices. Let me first begin with a prayer. Bharati Karunapatram Bharati Padabhushanam Bharati Padamarudam Bharati Tirthamashaye Vidya Vinaya Sampannam Vitaragam Vivekinam Vande Vedanta Tattvagyam Vidushekara Bharatim Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेद विभागिनः व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय श्री दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः. So today's talk, and I thank Sheshadri Ayarji for inviting me for this talk, and I'm very happy to be here. And when I was discussing with him about the topic, and he told me to speak on the 3 aspects of the issue. So the one is the Vedic aspect, the second is the practical aspect, and third is the Ayurvedic aspect. And hopefully I'll be able to cover all of them to some extent in 1 hour time. Basically speaking, what we call today as Hinduism is our own name in the tradition for a long time has been Sanatana Dharma or a Vaidika Dharma. So basically we are a civilization, a religious system, dharmic system which is rooted in the notions, which is rooted in the knowledge imparted to us by a corpus of texts, corpus of traditions of knowledge which has been handed over from Guru Shishya Parampara, known as Vaidika or Veda, right? That which derives from Veda is Vaidika. And Veda, I won't go into details what is Veda and all, but all our thoughts, all our actions, directly or indirectly, the entire Sanatana Dharma is rooted in this Vaidika Parampara. So even this menstruation, which in Sanskrit is called as Rajasvala or Rajashrava, our notions, our approach to this very natural but very intimate process that a woman undergoes, that all women undergo, and our understanding of this process, the Hindu understanding of process, is also rooted in the Veda. And And in fact, the Veda provides kind of a lays down the foundational perspective through a story, an interesting story of Indra. And this foundational story, the purpose of these accounts, it is not historical. I'll be shortly narrating the story to you, and the questions like, did this happen, and which year it happened, which year, what about before that? See, these questions makes no sense in the context of Vedic accounts. The purpose of these stories is a hermeneutic purpose. By hermeneutic, it means interpretation. They provide a kind of a etiological purpose that they provide kind of, they encode knowledge, they encode various aspects of the issue in these stories, right? So what is the story? What is the Sanatana Dharma is a very complex, multi-dimensional religious tradition. It is a combination of multiple number of traditions, all of which approach the truth from their own standpoint. Therefore, the dharmic perspective on any issue is complicated. It is complex and it is multidimensional. This complexity is not a negative factor, because this complex nature is what makes our dharma more fulfilling, more meaningful. And similarly, in the issue of menstruation, Hindu understanding is much more complicated, much more nuanced than other religious traditions, other civilizations as well. So let me begin with the story without much further ado. There is a story. I'll just read a few portions from the book. I won't be reading it per se, but I will be just referring to it as I read the story. The story begins with, of course, this story of Indra, but it is also a story of Twastra. Twastra is a three-headed son of Vishwarupa, and this Twastra, they are considered priests of the Devas, and they used to preside over the Yagyas. And this Twastra had three heads. From one head he used to drink Sura or liquor, one head he used to drink Soma, and in one head he used to eat. So anyways, this Twastra, he was through relationship, he was connected to the Asuras, but he also served as a as a priest for the Devatas. So the son of this Twastra is Vishwarupa. So the story is of this Vishwarupa and Indra. So basically, Vishwarupa, what he did, see, the basic concept of yajna is that the Agni acts as a priest and it takes our offerings to different devatas. So now this Vishwarupa was in a similar position as the presiding, the priest of the yajna. Priest is not a correct word, but anyways, the presiding purohita of the yajna. He used to openly say that this portion of the offerings will go to this devata, that devata, and etc. But one day Indra found out that Vishwarupa was silently giving a share that belonged to Devas to the Asuras. Now, Devas stand for order and Asuras stand for disorder. So, if the offerings of the Devas are being given to Asuras, then it will cause huge chaos in the universe. So, what did Indra do? Indra went and he cut off the head of the Vishwarupa. He slayed Vishwarupa basically. Though he did it for the Loka Kalyanam, the good of the world, because Vishwarupa was a Brahmana, because he was a Purohita, Indra incurred the guilt of Brahmahatya. In the Shastric perspective, in the Shastric worldview, this Brahmahatya is among one of the great papam. The sin is not a proper translation. It has a Christian connotation of a eternal hell or something like that. But here papam simply means adharma. Adharma which leads to suffering. So now Indra was, because he slayed Vishwarupa, he became associated, this papam of this Brahmahatya became attached to him. And whatever Indra did, he was not able to get rid of this papam. He went here and there, everywhere people used to call him as the slayer of the Brahmana. So finally, fed up of this, what Indra did was, he approached the earth, he approached the trees, and then he approached women with one simple request to each of them, saying that please take 1/3 of this papam and free me of it. In return, I will give you boons. So the trees, the earth, the women, they are all feminine in nature, and they immediately they were compassionate towards Indra, and they agreed. So when the Mother Earth took this papam, this manifested in her as a natural fissure, the fissures that form in the earth. And in turn, the boon they asked is that, the men always indulge in, we dig the earth and we always do this digging and mining, all those things. The boon the Mother Earth asked was that these activities should not affect her. And with the time, naturally, these things should be corrected on its own. And Indra right away gave her the boon that these activities, human activities, will not cause irreparable or a permanent damage to the Mother Earth. And similarly, the trees, that they take on the 1/3 of papam, and it manifested in them as a sap. You can see some kind of red sap in some of the trees. And that is how the story goes. And in return, they got the boon that the pruning of the trees will not kill them. You cut off a branch, it does not kill the tree. It gives rise to another branch. And finally, he came to women and he requested them. And women, again, they were compassionate, and they said, okay, we will take on the remaining last 1/3 portion of the guilt of Brahmahatya. And this guilt manifested in them as a stained garment. I mean, it's a reference that the term, this story is from Yajurveda Taittiriya Samhita, and later it has been repeated in Puranas like Bhagavad Purana, etc. So it manifested as menstruation. That is what the monthly, the periods. That is what the story says. And in return, what the boon the women got was that they are able to enjoy sexual pleasure without any kind of restriction, without any kind of problems until the birth of children. They are able to give birth to children, and they are able to enjoy the sexual intercourse until the time of birth. So basically, this is the basic story. This is the account is divided into two parts. The first part is the story part, and the second part, it gives certain practical instructions to women. And I'll just read out one or two instructions for the benefit of the viewers. It says, basically, among the instructions is, it says, after narrating this story, it says, therefore, one should not converse with a woman in her periods. One should not sit with her, not eat the food cooked by her. And it basically says she should not cook food during that time, and she should not anoint herself, she should not comb her hair or cut her nails, she should not do any kind of self-adorning activities, and she should not do sexual intercourse during the 3 periods of the 3 days of the periods, and she should not do any physical exercise, physical activities like spinning, etc. during those time. And she should and there are certain other the lifestyle practices that are advised to women in that story, so we will come to this in a bit. So this is the basic format of the story. So we need to now many of you who are listening to this story for the first time might be wondering, what does Brahmahatya have to do with menstruation, and what is all this connection to the fissure and all those things? uh, as I said, the story is kind of the purpose of the function of the story or the account of Indra is basically to give a hermeneutic principle, a interpretation principle to approach the issue of menstruation. What is the first thing that becomes very obvious in this story is that the appearance of menstruation is kind of compared with the natural fissures in the earth or the sap of the tree. That is, the first thing it is saying that, look, menstruation is a very natural process. It's a natural biological process. This is how you teach young children what is menstruation. Nowadays, the schools the textbooks tell you that whatever your culture has taught you, it is all rubbish, it is all nonsense. Only science tells you truth, and that kind of has a very negative effect of the young girls, because it alienates them from their culture. And I will come to that bit towards the end of this session. Basically, the story conveys to the young girls, to anybody who reads it. The first thing is that it's a natural process, and then it connects this menstruation to the story of the one third guilt of Brahmatya. What does it mean? We need to understand what is Brahma. Brahma refers to the creative power, that which can bring forth the worlds, bring forth life. And the Brahma Hatya basically means a slaying of this potential. And there is another way of understanding. In the Shastras, as I said, abortion is considered as a papam, and it is said that the magnitude of papam associated with abortion is same as that of Brahma Hatya. Why? Because abortion, you're basically a jiva which has come into the mother, which is about to take birth. It is being kind of killed. It is being disallowed from taking birth. In menstruation also, there is something similar is happening, not to that magnitude. What is it? It is this story, this portion is actually pointing to the biological aspect. What is the biological of this whole cycle? The menstruation period is not just a 3 days thing, right? It is part of the whole biological cycle, wherein throughout the month the woman's body prepares her to bear the child. When the conception does not happen, then the egg as well as other endometrial tissues and other things from the body are removed from the body. So basically, there was a potential to give birth, but this potential, because of a failure of conception, because of lack of conception, you can say, this potential did not manifest. So this non-manifest of the potential, which is a natural process, this is a natural process. This is not something women do it on their own, or do it deliberately or something like that. So but this natural process, because there was a non-fertilization of the egg, there is one third of the one third guilt or one third papam of Brahmatya becomes attached to the woman. But this very process of menstruation frees her of this guilt or papam, should I say. This natural, the process of menstruation itself frees her from that. And all these different aspects are being put into this story. So the one is the aspect of menstruation is a natural process. The second is aspect of menstruation as a ashaucha. See, ashaucha means, I will come to that. Usually it is translated as ritual impurity. Basically, it means that it is connected to this notion of Brahma Hatya, and it's there that because of ashaucha, the women are not supposed to do certain dharmic activity like puja, etc. during that period. And we will come to that. I will explain more on this. And the other aspect is, it is also a self-purification process. It is also tapasya and austerity. There's some of the restrictions I read out, like not self-adorning and all those things. It is connected to Ayurvedic health principle, as well as it is connected to the austerity principle. And finally, the story does not end there. The story connects the 3 days of menstruation with the boon that women got, that they will be able to bear children. It connects the it locates the menstruation as a small part of the larger biological cycle of women that makes them women, that makes them have the ability to become mothers. So it connects, the giving birth is considered as a very noble, very dharmic action as far as Hindu Dharma is concerned. I have written an entire article, you can check. In the context, I have done a study on abortion from a dharmic perspective, and it is on India Facts. And the first part is dedicated to this, how giving birth is a very dharmic act. First and second part, I think it's on this. And more importantly, the motherhood is part of the biological process of the women, but also it is part of the Stri Dharma of women. The Stri Dharma, which involves Rajaswala Dharma, or the Dharma of the menstruation during the time of menstruation, as well as Dharma related to Pativratya, and that related to motherhood. All these are connected. So, see, basically it is saying that, look, menstruation is to be understood as a very sacred process which helps women to, it is part of this larger Stri Dharma, which is which helps her to attain dharmic merit, Abhyudaya and Nishreyasa. See, Dharma by definition means that which gives Abhyudaya and Nishreyasa. Abhyudaya means material well-being, and Nishreyasa means spiritual well-being. So with this, some very basic guide, principles, we can derive these principles from the Vedic story, that menstruation is a natural process. It is a process that is associated with something called as Ashaucha. I will take up this. And then it is a self-purificatory process, and it is a period of rest. It is also saying, the story is saying that one should not work, one should not have a physical activity like spinning, etc. So it's a state of rest, and it is a state of celebration. And now let us briefly look. I hope I am not rushing it through. Let us briefly. I will now speak about all these aspects and how it reflects in the practice. See, many of you, I was talking to Sheshadri ji in the afternoon, and he was telling me that many people, want to know this, that, when even today, many communities, many families, when the girl first attends, starts, menarche, puberty, she is taken to her village, and there they do rituals and a lot of puja and a lot of traditional practices that have come down to us from thousands of years. So are they meaningful? And she is taught certain lifestyles, certain do's and don'ts. Are they meaningful? What is the meaning of them? What is the rationale behind them? So I will be dealing with that. The principles that I laid down, these are the basic principles which guide different practices. And I will be taking up one by one all of them. The most important and most misunderstood, it is important because it is highly misunderstood, is the notion of Ashaucha. What is Ashaucha? It is translated as ritual impurity or impurity. But impurity is an English term, and it has a very negative connotation. See, I have seen so many videos in the YouTube, and there are so many people I have lost. In the last 2 years, I have toured all over India. I have went to 14 cities. I have delivered lectures on these issues. Everywhere, this is what I have been seeing, that impurity is a very negative term. It has a very negative baggage. The question that I am asked is, see, Hinduism says menstruating women are impure. Are you not degrading women? Are you not morally judging women? Are you not saying that women are morally inferior, morally bad, morally, something like that? But let me tell you that none of these meanings are associated to the Sanskrit concept of Ashaucha. Not at all. Zero. This impurity has I will not go into detail, you can read in my book. Impurity is an English term, and its historical origins lies in Christian theology, because English is the language of the Western culture, Western civilization. And in Christian theology, menstruation is connected to this doctrine of the doctrine of evil and the original sin, wherein the Eve there was caused the fall of Adam and Eve, and they say that the women are punished for their sin, and this punishment is in the form of menstruation. So it is in the Christian theology wherein this impurity became associated with moral degradation of women, moral inferiority of women, and such things. This has nothing to do with Hindu culture, Hindu dharma, Hindu shastras. The ashaucha is translated as impurity, but the meaning of impurity here is completely different. In fact, the Christianity took the term from the Greek civilization, where the meaning was something similar to what is in Hindu civilization. So let me first explain what shaucha and ashaucha is. But before that, let me first explain the term rajashrava. See, as I said, in Hindu dharma, in the Sanskrit text, the menstruation is called usually by many names are there, but two very important names which are very insightful is Rajasvala and Rajashrava. Rajashrava is especially insightful. Rajashrava, Shrava means flow. Rajas means Raja. So what is Raja? Raja can be blood, Raja can be Rajasic energy, Raja can be Rajoguna. To understand this and appreciate this, we need to understand what is an individual. See, in modern science, we are taught that we are this body, we have this brain, and our mind is nothing but a chemical product of chemical reactions in the brain. So, but this is not the view that is supported by Shastra, propagated in Hindu dharma. We say that a jiva is made up of panchakoshas and three shariras. Panchakoshas are Annamaya Kosha, which is the physical body, the gross body, the physical body made up of all these organs, flesh, bones, etc., the blood, etc. And then we have Pranamaya Kosha, which is made up of the Pancha Pranas, Prana, Apana, Vyana, Udana, Samana. This is very important because these pranas, they are the forces that cause all the activities in the body. It may be inhalation, exhalation, circulation, and excretion. All these activities are controlled by different pranas. And then we have Manomaya Kosha, which is the mind, and Vijnanamaya Kosha, which is the intellect, and then Anandamaya Kosha, which is the Kosha of the Anandam. So that Anandamaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha is not necessary for us right now. On a day-to-day basis, most of us live and act using these three koshas. All the koshas are present, yes, but these the first three are more active. The physical body, the vital or the pranamaya kosha, the pranic body, and the manomaya kosha or the manas or the mind. What is happening is, we all are aware of the concept of three gunas, sattva, rajo and tamas. During menstruation, when it is said rajashrava means flow of rajas. What it means is, women are in a condition of a heightened rajas, and this rajas is flowing out. At the physical level, it refers to Raja, refers to blood. There is a flow of blood. Raja literally refers to blood also, among many of its meaning. So at the physical level, there is a flow of blood. And this blood is also carrier of energy. And the energy it carries is a Rajasic energy. In the Ayurvedic text, it says that the ama or the bodily toxins are removed from the body during menstruation. So there is lot of processes, biological processes happening inside the woman's body, and these toxins are removed. And at the Pranamaya Kosha, the Apana Vayu is in a heightened condition. What is this Apana Vayu? Apana Vayu is the Vayu or the Vayu which facilitates, which controls the excretion activity. Whatever is being thrown out of the body, it is controlled by the Apana Vayu. Because the blood is being removed from the body and the toxins are removed from the body, and other things, as I said, unfertilized egg, endometrium tissue, are all removed from the body. Apana Vayu is in a heightened condition. So and in fact Ayurvedas, I will not go into Ayurvedic aspect right away. It divides the whole 1 month cycle of woman into different parts of Rajaswala, and in different sections of different days, different portions of the cycle, different there is Vata, Pitta, Kapha, three doshas are there. Different doshas are in a heightened condition. Vata dosha, which is connected to this Apana Vayu, is in a heightened condition during the 3 days of periods. So this heightened the condition of there is Apana Vayu in the pranic sharira, and finally at the level of the mind there is heightened condition of Rajoguna. What is this Rajoguna heightened condition? Many women experience this, that they experience irritation, mood swings, they experience pain, they experience kind of restlessness. All these are products of heightened condition of Rajoguna. So when it says there is a flow of Rajas, or a woman is in a heightened condition of Rajas, it does not mean that menstruating women should perform activities. They should, as the ads with Stay Free and all shows, they have to, they could become swimming champions by just wearing a pad. It's not like that. In fact, the Ayurveda and other texts says they have to take rest, absolute rest if possible, as much as rest at least possible, because they have to appreciate, they have to allow their bodies to undergo the processes that are going, because in taking physical rest is beneficial to them from a health point of view. Otherwise, these three gunas, the three Vata Pitta doshas, it will cause a serious imbalance in them. I'll come to that later. So basically, Rajashrava means flow of Rajas, and because the woman is considered as being in a heightened condition of Rajas. Now, why is this called as Ashaucha, and what does this Ashaucha mean? We need to understand Ashaucha with the counterpart concept of Shaucha. Everybody have heard of this word. Now, Modi ji brought this Swachha Bharat concept some years back, right? Swachhata. But this Shaucha or Swachhata is not just about keeping your house and your street clean, right? This Shaucha can be translated as purity and cleanliness. It refers to internal as well as external purity. What does this mean? It means there are texts in Dharma Shastras which says any activity, you perform any activity, you have to perform it in a condition of Shaucha. If you do not perform it in a condition of Shaucha, that activity will not give you full fruit. You can check my book, all the references are given. I don't remember these references off the hand. And so Shaucha, the notion of Shaucha, Ashaucha is associated with the notion of competency to perform certain action and incompetency or ineligibility to perform certain action. Let us take for example any religious activity, going to a temple, performing a homa, having a puja at home, or even doing a meditation, and simple as that. What is the Shaucha or the basic criteria that defines what kind of physical, bodily and mental condition that a person should be while doing this? We all practice this. We have been taught from childhood. We learn from our elders that when we perform puja, we have to take a bath. Or when we go to a temple, the least we do is we wash our legs and hands and sometimes face as well outside the temple, and then enter the temple. This cleaning process is because to facilitate us to enter a condition of Shaucha. So, because it is Shaucha that helps us, gives us competency to practice these spiritual practices, these ritualistic practices. So, what does this Shaucha mean when we think about the Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha and Manomaya Kosha? It means in the physical body, we have to be clean in a physical sense, in a hygiene is there. In the Pranamaya Kosha level, there should be the Pancha Pranas have to be in a balanced condition. See, balance is important, and balance does not mean that all the pranas have to be equal amount. No, balance simply means that all of them have to be in their natural condition and have to be in a balanced condition. And in the level of the mind, there should be sattva pradhana. We should be in a calm condition to enter the temple to do any puja, etc. But during menstruation, what is happening? There is a continuous flow of blood, and blood is also the carrier of energy, and it is carrier of rajasic energy. It also carries ama and other things. No matter whether you use tampons, whether you use the sanitary napkins, you are not actually stopping the flow of blood. There is a flow of blood, right? So at the physical level, because of this flow of blood, woman is in a condition of ashaucha. It is not just this. Even men enter similar kind of ashaucha. If, for example, a man has an accident, he's driving a motorcycle and he has an accident, there is a flow of blood. He has a deep cut in his leg, and there is a continuous flow of blood. Then even he is considered as in a state of ashaucha, and he should not do this yagya, homa, and all these things, right? But in the case of woman, this is even more so, because because of course there is a flow of blood, but the kind of blood which is going out in a menstruating women is not a normal blood. It's a menstruating blood. It contains at the physical level, as I said, the endometrium tissues, the unfertilized egg, and other things. But also it contains ama, the bodily toxins. It contains the excess apanavayu, the rajasic energy, which the body. Throughout the month, the body prepared itself in many ways to give birth to the child. So there was a heightened energy build-up, and this energy is being removed because there was non-fertilization. So at the level of prana maya kosha as well, there is because of heightened condition of apanavayu and rajasic energy, etc. Women are considered to be in a ashaucha condition, not in a shaucha condition. And at the mind level, as I said, there is a rajoguna pradhana at that time. Therefore, they are in a ashaucha condition. So what does basically it means? It means that when the Shastras say that women are in a condition of ashaucha during 3 days of periods, and hence they should not perform religious activities, and it also says they should not perform activities like cooking, etc. It simply means it has no moral connotation. It is not saying that women are inferior. It is not saying that women are bad or anything like that. It's simply saying that women are in a condition of heightened condition of rajas, and there is a flow of rajas during menstruation, and respecting this condition, they should take rest. Respecting this condition makes them ineligible for certain actions. For certain actions like Vaidika Karmakanda, the puja, homa, going to temples, even meditation, all kind of spiritual activity they should not do, because they are not good for their health, and there is a reason why they are not good for their health. And second is, certain activities are not good for their health, like even cooking, etc. I'll tell you why. What happens in any spiritual activity. I don't know how many of you are aware of the notion of Kundalini and Kundalini Yoga. See, it is very difficult to rise your Kundalini. And nowadays people say they had suddenly Kundalini awakening. See, those things does not happen easily. But what happens is that whenever a spiritual process, spiritual activity is done, the fundamental thing that is happening inside the body is that the apanavayu is being pushed upward so that it joins the prana, the pranavayu, and takes one to spiritual states, finally culminating in samadhi. Whether apanavayu fully rises or not, there is a push to apanavayu which naturally moves downwards to move upwards. Now what happens during the periods, apanavayu is already in a heightened condition. It is moving downwards. It is doing its function of removing the blood, the menstrual blood from the body. Now if you are forcefully trying to push it upwards, it causes imbalance. It disturbs the biological process that is happening inside the body of the woman. it disturbs her biological cycle, and in turn it disturbs disturbs the tridoshas, and finally it results in all kinds of health issues in women, including it affects the pregnancy and such things. The Ayurveda also speaks about this. This is for this reason that one, because of the condition of ashaucha, she becomes ineligible to perform these ritualistic actions, but also that these ritualistic actions are harmful to her body, that is why she should not perform. Similarly, when it comes to cooking and other physical exercises, she should take rest, because this activity, again, this all this running and too much, the cooking is a called as Paka Shastra in our time. It's a Paka Vidya. It's a Vidya. It is a sadhana, and it is a very intense, physically and mentally intense activity. And this activity takes a toll on the body and the mind of the woman. So during menstruation, the periods, if they perform the cooking activity or any other kind of exercises and such things, it has serious consequences. It causes disturbances in the biological cycle, right? It causes disturbances to the tridoshas. And another reason, of course, is what is food? Food is also a carrier of energy. It carries not just, food not only carries the nourishment in the form of physical calories, but it also carries the subtle energies and the sattva, raja, tama guna. That is why in our shastra says, when person is cooking the food, the person who cooks the food, they should cook it in a very sattvic manner. And the Manusmriti says that cooking itself is kind of a yajna for the women. It is as spiritually beneficial as a yajna for the women. So this cooking, it's a transmitter of energy. During menstruation, periods when the woman cooks food and she gives it to others, she is also transmitting the rajoguna that is in the rajoguna that her body is emitting during that time. That is why it is said that she should not cook food, but other members of the family must cook food for her and give her food. So there is health aspect and there is the other aspects. But so this is basically about the ashaucha. I hope this is clear to all, and we are already 7:43, and I think once we approach 7:55, I'll end this session and I'll restart it again so that I can shed some more light on this. The second aspect is that our shastras do not end in saying that, look, women is in a condition of ashaucha. No, it goes a step further. It says that menstruation is also the menstruation periods itself is a form of a tapasya. It is a self-purificatory process. A lot of people ask me, a lot of women ask me that, look, you said women should not do puja, should not do rituals, should not do meditation, should not do mantra jap during these periods. Now, what about their spiritual growth? The Shastras give an answer in the sense that for them, practicing this Rajaswala, and they call this called it as the Rajo Dharma or Rajaswala Dharma. It is a dharma in itself. That is, you practice these restrictions, you practice the lifestyle suggested in Ayurveda and Dharma Shastra texts for menstruating women. That practice itself is a austerity, it's a tapasya. It gives you spiritual fruits. It gives you spiritual merits. You do not have to do any other kind of spiritual activity to gain that merit. As Krishna says in Gita, Swadharmo nidhanam shreya. During the 3 days of periods, for the women, the Swadharma is observing the menstrual practices. That is itself her dharma. I think there is a Rishi Panchami is one of the festivals. It's more prevalent in Nepal, but it is also prevalent in parts of India, including I think Andhra and other places, wherein women kind of do prayashchitta for not observing this Rajo Dharma during the rest of the year. So that is the status of Rajo Dharma. It is a dharma in itself. It is a swadharma for the Rajaswala Nari during that is women during the menstruating period. And you can find that the notion of tapasya is in the Vedic story itself. The Vedic story says that women should not adorn herself, she should not do makeup, she should not apply colorium to her eyes, and she should not comb her hair. All these have two aspects. One is the aspect of tapasya, because what is a tapasya? You just imagine a ascetic doing a tapasya. He stays away from the society. He does not comb his hair. He does not care about his body. Does not care about his beauty and looks, etc. So these 3 days are meant to induce some kind of indriya nigraha and vairagya among women, so that that is for self-adorning activities and all, and even are set she should not do. But there is other aspect to it, which is health. Ayurvedic texts like Charaka Samhita and Sushruta Samhita, details are in my book, all the references. It specifically says that if during the 3 days of periods women do this and apply this kajal and etc. and comb their hair, cut their nails, all this activity will cause imbalance in the biological cycle. They cause imbalance in the vata, pitta and kapha doshas, and this imbalance, and when it persists over some period of time, after when they conceive, when they become pregnant and they give child, the child is given birth, there may be certain deformities, there may be certain conditions, health issues that the child may face because of this. So all this, so as I said, Hinduism is a very complex, multi-dimensional understanding of menstruation. So these some of these lifestyle practices, restrictions are there for the protecting the health of the women, as well as inducing the notion of tapasya in them. And then there is the self-purification aspect, which I want to quickly go through. One of the Dharma Shastra texts, I think it is Gautama Dharma Sutra or the Vashishta Dharma Sutra, or I think Vashishta Dharma Sutra, it says, though women enter a temporary period of ashaucha for the 3 days, this 3 days period of ashaucha makes women ever pure. It is saying, so contrary to our assumption that Hinduism degrades women, what the Shastras are saying that women are ever pure. They do not need certain purificatory rituals the way men need. What are those? Men have to do, for example, the Dvija men have to do Sandhya Vandana every day. The others can do the puja and etc. It may be Ganapati puja, it may be any puja, it may be just reading Aditya Hridayam. All these daily spiritual activities. The Sankalpa itself says, Durita Kshaya Dwara Mamopata Samasta Durita Kshaya Dwara. Durita means papam. Kshaya, remove the papam. May the deity remove the papam from us. They have to do this, that the men have to continuously do this spiritual activity to keep themselves pure, keep themselves free from n number of papam that we do intentionally, unintentionally on a day-to-day life. But women don't need to do any of that. Some people ask, why are so many of these rituals suggested for men but nothing for women? It is not that nothing is suggested for men. They have the bhakti practices and all those things. But these purificatory ritualistic practices are not needed for them, because month after month, as the Dharma Shastra says, they attain purity by entering a 3-day period of temporary ashaucha. That's this menstruation frees them all from all these kinds of papam that we do on a day-to-day basis. We already saw that this menstruation frees women of the 1/3 Brahmahatya that attaches to them because of non-fertilization of egg. But it does more. Manusmriti says that it frees women from impure thoughts. The dharma and adharma is understood at the level of the body, at the level of the speech, and at the level of the mind. When we think bad about others, when we think about hurting others, sometimes a lot of thoughts happen. We have this kama, krodha, moha and jealousy. Asuya is most important. We always have this, right? It frees women of these when they are in, to certain extent. It is not that women can do anything, they can kill somebody and they will become free from that papam because of menstruation. It is not like that. Basically it means that all this sometimes unintentional, sometimes intentional things, that inevitable papam that we have to do on a daily basis, it frees women from these activities, from these papam. So menstruation is a very purifying process. So in Sanatana Dharma, menstruation is not seen as degrading women. It is, in fact, it is a facility which is uniquely available to women, which helps them to remain ever pure. Men have to put what comes to men through effort, to lots and lots of effort, comes naturally to women. That is the condition of shaucha. So we need to, so this is the other aspect. So menstruation is considered ashaucha, but it is also considered as tapas, it is also considered as self-purification process, and it is considered as a period of rest. I already discussed this. And tapasya aspect, I have to highlight one more thing. That in some of the communities, they practice that in the villages, women go and stay in a menstrual hut. This is prevalent in Indian villages. Now it has almost reduced, but also in Nepal, etc. Yes, I have heard about reports about how the conditions in these huts are not good, and that condition can definitely be improved. It's a good thing to improve it. But nowadays it is being promoted that this practice itself is misogynist and it is anti-women, but it is not so. It all again comes from the notion of ashaucha and tapasya. See, what does a rishi or a ascetic who does tapasya do? He does not do tapasya in his home, right? He goes to a vana, he goes to a forest, he goes to a secluded place and does tapasya there. This is also similar like that. This is kind of a me time. In the West now they have this red tent movement wherein the women go during their periods, they go away from their families, stay in something called as red tents with other women who are doing who are having their periods. It is their me time for them, and this used to happen here also. All the women in the villages whose periods coincided, they stayed together. Anyway, so these are some of the things we need to understand. There may be certain errors in the way we implement these tenets, way we implement these practices, but that does not mean the practices themselves or the tenets themselves are somehow anti-women or something like that. No, the practices are based in a concern for women, concern for the spiritual and as well as health benefits for the women. So, and I think we are almost 7:53. I think I have just I have to take up one important aspect, which is the sacred celebration, and also as well as a little bit of Ayurvedic perspective. And I will end this session and restart it in a minute. So that we won't be interrupted in between, and thank you everyone for listening to it, and I'm very happy to make this presentation. I'm just ending it quickly and restarting it.